Hi, Kerry. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm happy that you're here with me and Destino. And I just wanted to talk about you and the work that you've done and celebrate that you've worked on movies, TV, and our time on Night Court.
Awesome.
Would you be able to start with your name and what you do?
Sure. My name is Kerry Carter, and I'm primarily a key second AD.
Yeah, exactly. And before I get started, I wanted to hit you with some fun facts because I know that was like my favorite part of your call sheet.
Oh,
So I don't know if you know this, but M&M stands for Mars and Murray, and it's because Forrest Mars teamed up with Bruce Murray to make the hard shell candy M&Ms, and their slogan was "Melts in your mouth, not in your hand."
I didn't know what that stood for, so that is a fun fact.
Neither did I. And see, I mean, it sparked me investigating. So, hey, so I want to know what inspired you to work in entertainment.
Um, I will say I always had an interest in it. Which sounds cliche. I did not go to school for film. I went for communications and just took a variety of classes,
Mhm.
but none of them film oriented. And then my senior year, I had an internship class, and so I went to school in Massachusetts, so I looked at the film guide, because Boston did have a film office, um,
Hmm.
and looked at places that I wanted to intern, and I picked the only place that had done anything that I'd heard of, and I applied there, and but they were full with their internships for that semester. So I did a radio station one instead, which was cool. Um, but I actually was able to reach back out to this production company, and intern with them my first semester out of college. Um, and of course, my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was working 5 days a week retail, interning 2 days a week at the production company. Um, and yeah, my mom was like, "What are you doing? Like, you graduated from college, and why don't you get a job at some big company, with a softball team?" Actually, is what she said. And I just said, "No, like, I think I need to just try this and see." So I interned there. They let me stay on for like a year and a half, which was not customary. But to me, it was if they were going to let me stay there, I wanted to stay there because I didn't have any other ties. And even though my primary things were phones and lunches and script coverage and stuff like that, it still kind of felt like I was, in the mix a little bit, and fast forward to while I was there, this is actually the production company that created Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. So, so while I was there, I didn't work on it per se because but they were doing the treatment for it and kind of getting the pitch ready and stuff like that. So they've done well, which is good. But it was wonderful people there, who then led me to my first set job.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I said the same thing to my parents that, you know what, just let me just try this for a year. I just want to be in the environment, see what happens. And luckily, yeah, it was this agreement of, yeah, okay, go for a year and see who you meet, see if you like it. And yeah, I never looked back.
Mhm.
Um, what was one of the turning points or one of those first jobs that helped you kind of learn the job early on?
Yeah, I will say my first set job. So while I was at this production company, um, there was three producers in that office, and they were talking one day, and one of them says, "Hey, Carrie, and this is also at a time when Boston didn't have a film incentive, so there was work, but it was mostly commercials, and like a couple days here and there for TV and movies because it was expensive to come film in Boston, and so the only actually female producer in the office says, "Hey, Carrie, Mona Lisa Smile is coming to town. You should see if you can get on it." And I you should send him your resume. Um, and I'm like, what resume? I because I didn't. I didn't have, and like I hadn't been a production assistant before. I didn't have, like, yes, I had peripheral experience, but I didn't have actual onset experience, And so, um, but she helped me with my resume, and I faxed it to New York, and never expected to hear from anyone, right? And then a couple weeks later, I got a phone call from someone, and he said, hey, Kerry, I'm calling from, Mona Lisa Smile. Um, I don't have your resume in front of me, but can you tell me a little bit about your experience? Now, I didn't have any, right? So this was kind of a moment for me where I was like, and I'm not a good liar either, but do I tell the truth? You know, or do I lie? Like I want this job, but and I think just the moral compass in me was not going to let me lie. I will say my retail job was at Old Navy, which at the time was the only place using walkie talkies. So I was very familiar with a walkie talkie. Um, and so I was honest. And I said, I don't have any direct experience, but I'm looking to gain some. And he was like, all right. He's like, it's going to be really early mornings. Like, like it could be 4 a.m. Like, can you do that? And I said, yep. And he said, and are you good with a walkie talkie? Have you, and I was like, yep, yep. And I think there was a couple other little questions. And then he said, okay, well, we'll see you, I don't know if it was tomorrow or whatever, but it's like, and then I got my first call time to go be an additional production assistant on Mona Lisa Smile, which, was a sizable movie. Um, and I will say it's cliche to say, but, and on movies too, there's so much grander stuff to see, right? And we were shooting at Wellesley College, and there's just a lot of things. And I just felt like from my first day on a set, I was just like, this is just what I thought it was going to be. And I love it. Like it, it's almost like I was hooked from the very first day. Um, yeah. So, um, so yeah.
I agree. I mean, for me, being on my first sitcom, I always remember just like hearing, even like when we're rolling that bell, and also just the etiquette of being on set, and then also getting there early and seeing everybody trickle in and people just in a good attitude. And I remember feeling the same way of like, yeah, this is where I want to be for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, and then so how were you able to find consistent work after that?
Yeah. So the good news is that I think I auditioned for a couple weeks on this movie. So I met like ADs. I met a couple people that were like, "Oh, hey, Kerry, like, have you met Tim? Do you know Tim at Central Booking?" And I was like, "Who's Tim?" Like, no, I don't know what is that. And so at this time, Massachusetts actually had, or Boston, what a talent agency is for actors. They had that for crew people, actually. So a job could come to town, call Central Booking, Tim at Central Booking, and say, hey, we're coming in and we're going to need, whatever, like DP locations. We need, six PAs and whatever, like all the things. And they could refer or help them staff appropriately. And so after I did this stint on Mona Lisa Smile, went to meet with Tim, right? And so I had kind of like a little interview, and he took my information, and then that helped me because he was very good at pairing up people that he thought would mesh well. So, he would put you with people that mesh well, and then they would call for you again, And so, I think I paid a monthly fee, like I think it was $50 a month to kind of, belong to it, and it's like a referral service, or like an employment agency kind of sort of, and so through that, I did mostly commercials for a while, and that was fine because they paid more as a production assistant, and but I continued to meet people as he continued to pair me up with awesome people that I would mesh well with, and then that led to other people and more people, and for a while I was one of like two female PAs in town, which was kind of a good thing because sometimes they wanted a female PA for X, Y, and Z, right? Um, to um, that. So it worked really well. So sometimes I would be on for prep, shoot, and wrap, so I would get like a couple weeks out of a job that was shooting for 2 days. Um, so yeah, I did do my first commercial job was actually as a wardrobe PA. I knew nothing about wardrobe. He paired me up with a stylist, and um, yeah, I think we did 5 Walgreens commercials, and we were shooting like out in the Berkshires or something. I don't know, like, but I was not a costumer. I had no train. I have my knowledge with that was not. I just, yeah, I'm helping. And then they had this costume designer from LA, who was like a big deal. I found out later. I didn't have a context for her, but she like doing these commercials, and she didn't drive, so I drove her around. I had to drive her around and do some shopping. And I mean, I helped on the wardrobe truck, but like I did whatever they asked me to do to the best that I could. But I think after that, I didn't love that. I respected that, but I didn't love the costume side. Um, so, but again, grateful to meet people and learn. And I think it's just as important in this business, aside from learning what you do want to do. I think it's just as important to find out what you don't want to do, because then you can feel more confident once you make your decision.
Yeah, that's so true. And like you said, I mean, the key word is just meeting people and trying things out until you do find that place where you feel like inspired to continue and you do feel like you bring the your best work to that department. Well, I wanted to know were you able to make that transition from working in Boston and features and then jumping into TV shows?
Sure. I did do a little single camera in
Mhm.
Massachusetts and Rhode Island
Oh.
before I moved to Los Angeles. Um, but it is a sitcom job that brought me to LA. And so I had done some of the single camera, we call it, right, work that I'd done. Primarily, I had been a base camp PA. And so obviously in that job, you're interacting with the actors and their daily goings on and and I was working on a movie um, in 2006 called Underdog, which and one of the actors who was in it, um, said, "Hey, how'd you like to come work on my set?" Like his show had been picked up, and he says, "Hey, how'd you like to come run my set?" And I honestly just took it as a compliment and kind of dismissed it because, like, yeah, right, like that doesn't feel like it's. And then because he was the adult in a kids movie, he wasn't in it a lot, so he was away for a couple weeks, comes back, gets out of the car, and the first thing he says is, "So you coming out?" I was like, oh, like you were serious. Is there someone else I should talk to? you know um, so he put me in touch with the UPM. um, and I remember talking to this UPM, and he was great. And I'd worked so hard up until that point to get all my experience. And it was very important to me. Like, I'd worked hard to get it. So and I'd never been like a political hire, if you will, right? Just because someone says so. Like, I'd never gotten a job that way. This show was going into season 6, so clearly I'm replacing someone. There's that. I don't know that person, but still someone might be displaced because of me. And and I just and I asked the UPM, I said, "Would you like me to send you a resume?" And I can still hear his laugh. And he laughed and said, "That's not necessary." And I said, "Well, I'm going to send it to you anyway, so you know where I'm coming from." And I sent it to him, and I think he just replied with, "Looks good," like whatever. But it was important to me because I'd worked so hard, and also I don't know any of these people, so I wanted them to have kind of a little frame of reference, not just because I'm not just here because someone said so, but um, I do have experience I've worked hard to get, and so maybe they can feel a little more confident, especially if I'm displacing someone, that I'm there, you know. So yeah, so I did that. And my mom, I think, had 2 weeks notice. I left the movie like a couple weeks early, um, and was like, I have to go because the what if will kill me. And um and I just remember saying to my mom, like, and she was, I didn't see the worry then. I will say she hit it well, but like I basically was like, okay, I'm going. What I need to know is, do I need to get a storage unit or can I move my stuff into the basement? Like, like this is happening and I'm going, but and she let me move my stuff home. And yeah, and I came out here with 2 bags. I rented a car because I didn't have time to ship my car. I didn't even know if I'd like it. Um, but yeah, it was wild. I drove to this address and I'd been to LA once before, but not long term at all. Um, and I was driving up and he lives on Beechwood. So I was driving up and there's the Hollywood sign, right? So like, say what you will, but like it was kind of like, okay, I'm here and I'm driving to where I'm going to stay and there's the Hollywood sign. It was kind of like this just complete, I don't know. I don't want to use the word cliche, but like maybe, like here I am. I came with a job waiting, which is, I know, like unheard of. But yeah, so I came out for season 6 of that show, and met some wonderful people, many who I still know today, and some who kept me employed for years, and some who were then instrumental in helping me get into the DGA later. So it was a wonderful place to come to, and my mom came to a taping like a few months later, and then I think she had a better idea of what the heck her daughter went across the country to do, and she met the actor who gave me this job opportunity, and the first thing he said to her, he shook her hand and said, so I took your daughter away from you. It's like, so, but all in good fun. But I think, like any parent, once you meet the people that your child is working with, and they're good people, and then you can kind of feel better about things, not just the, hey, she's 3,000 miles away now, on the other side of the country, and I don't even fully understand her job. um, and ironically, this show did have a softball team, so I played so I played on the softball team. And I remember telling my mom, like, yep, like it's great. And they have a softball team. Um, so,
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of credit to you as well, that your work ethic and the way that you are with people really showed, and it really caught his eye to want to bring you from where you were all the way out to LA. And that's just something that I'm happy that that happened to you, because it kickstarted your journey and to be able to expand and meet more people on the other side of the country, like you said.
right.
What was it like to get an opportunity to move towards the AD department?
Um, it was good, actually. I didn't fully know. I was working towards getting my 600 PA days because before I knew about other ways to get in, that was what I was striving for. So I was saving all my stuff, and then I kind of realized once I got to Los Angeles, I can't remember all like the technicalities of it all, but and I hadn't even heard of the training program, for that either, the DGA. I think maybe I had, but I thought I'll have my 600 days before then, so I don't need to apply for that. If I could go back, I would have applied for that. Um, and that's what I tell anyone now who thinks that they're interested, even though it is competitive. And I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but they take like 8 or 10 out of hundreds, so it's difficult, um, but I would have at least applied, I think, because you get out of that and then you can, for 2 years, and then you can go do anything. But yeah, I just continued to PA. So this show, we did season 6. I thought everyone thought that it was done, right? So people cried, they thought woohoo, and then so I actually moved back home. I shipped whatever I accumulated back east, moved back home, thought that was a great experience, fine, and then I got a call in July. Um, that was and this was like May or like I think I moved home in like May because we did a full season of like 22 episodes or something. And then I got a call from the UPM. Hey, Kerry, you got picked up. I'm like, oh hey. And so that's when I officially came back out in 2007 and shipped my car and did all the things. And so I finished. We did season 7 and we did season 8 on that show. And then I continued to PA. Um, and eventually it led me to Wizards of Waverly Place, which was a Disney show. And I actually had gotten asked if I wanted to PA season 1 of that show. But I think at the time they weren't paying, with our sitcom stuff, you like you're 3 weeks on, 1 week off traditionally. And I don't think at the time, like on according to Jim, I was paid for that hiatus week. Even which is helpful because again, as a production assistant, you're not making you. It's okay, but it's not. You're not making big bucks, right? So that was very helpful. And so this show, um, you know, every show's different budgetarily and otherwise. And so season 1 of the show wasn't paying that week. So it was 3 weeks of pay a month, and I didn't think I could live on that. I didn't think I could. So I turned it down. So I did not join from the start. But I did get another call when they were going into season 3 because their person had left. And so at that point I said yes. And I think at that point, maybe the hiatus week was paid because it's the show's successful, it's continuing. And so I feel sure I probably was getting paid for the hiatus week at that point, which also made it more feasible. And I went there and was working with some of the people from According to Jim and some people from in between, um, including the first AD who I had met. He came into second on According to Jim for a while because I think he didn't have a first gig. And so anyway, so I was reunited with him. Again, a wonderful group of people, like really family. We had a ball, honestly. We had a ball, and so I did season 3 with them, and then I went to go do season 1. So the same UPM from According to Jim called me to go do. So I finished Wizard season 3. Then I get a call to go do Hot in Cleveland season 1, and that was also with the same first AD from um, who did Wizards. So he was going to go to that as well. Um, and look, that was Betty White and all the thing. I'm a huge Golden Girls fan, like, but also it's a freelance line of work. So just grateful to have anything in front of us to fill the gaps. So of course I said yes. Went to go do that, had a blast over there. And then on our last day, I think it was our last day of shooting Hot in Cleveland season 1, they found out that we were picked up for season 2. Um, and I think like a week prior to that, like Wizards had been picked up for season 4, and Wizards was going to give me the opportunity to get into the DGA, and it was I had such not mixed feeling, but like I knew what the choice was, right? I can go back to Wizards and get into the guild, which is a big deal, which is not easy. And you kind of just really need the stars to align sometimes, depending which route you're going. Um, or I can, or there's this wonderful place to go to work for season 2, where like I get to see these fantastic ladies in the crew, like every day. Like it was really, of course, I was grateful that it got picked up for season 2, but then I was like, but I have to go over there. Like I have to. The choice was obvious, and I guess a good decision to have. I always tell people like in this business, if you have choices of where you go to work, you've earned those choices. Sometimes you just have to take the one job that's in front of you because it's the only thing you have. But if you have choices, you've earned that. So I had a choice. Um,
Yeah, that's so true. I'm always very thankful as well to be able to like hear from other people and like you said, just staying connected because it's like such a small world, especially with sitcoms, where the way to stay active is always just to stay in contact with those people that you've continue to work with and that keep you in mind when these opportunities happen.
Yeah,
How were you able to prepare for your first gig as a second?
that's a good question. That's a good question. I had observed other people doing the job, but I swear, to me, it's it was like driving, right? Before you drive, you think you know what it feels like. But then the first time I sat behind the wheel and was on the road, I was like, this isn't what I thought it would feel like at all. That's what I feel like seconding was for me. Now, to be fair, I was in the most supportive environment I could possibly be in, right? So, um, but yeah, I was a little nervous, of course. And gosh, when I think back at like, I could just like, you learn a lot as you go, basically. And I think it's one of those things that you really learn by doing. Like you could observe everyone in the world, but until you're actually doing it, it's different. And everyone has different styles. So I've taken pieces like I like how that person does this. I like how that person does that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, no, I don't. Like I mean, I've seen second seconds yell at people. I I've seen what I wanted to be like or what I wanted to do, and as much as I've seen what I don't want to be like and what I don't want to do. You know, but yeah, I think we did 26 episodes that last season. So um, yeah, I just kind of did my best. And if there were notes, coming from like the first ED or whatnot, like I was always happy to take a note. Or sometimes the camera guys will give you notes. They'll be like, hey, Kerry, you could use someone here. I'll take a note even to this day from a camera person any day of the week. These guys have seen a lot of scenes and things, and they know what looks good. And but yeah, I think I was just um, eager. I just did my best. I jumped in, did my best, but I was also fully supported. So I will say my first job after that was um, I was not shell shocked, but it was a whole other pace of a show, background wise. Um, and that, so I worked with new ADs. So I finished season 4. I got into the Directors Guild, which is great. And then, but I still wasn't eligible to do single camera because you have to, like the way I got in on the show, I had to work X amount of days in multi to be eligible to then do single camera in town. I actually was not eligible to AD single camera in town until like 8 years. It took like 8 years. And that's because, and I was gainfully employed. Like I was working a lot. But in sitcom, because you shoot 2 days a week, only 2 days counted. And so you can imagine that took a minute. They have since changed it. I've heard that they have since changed it, and now they count all 5 days. But that was not the case then. So it took like 8 years for me to even be eligible to do single camera in Los Angeles. Although I love the sitcom stuff, especially when it's really hot or really cold or rainy or it's lovely and contained. And logistically, it's nice, compared to the other stuff. But I will say, so I did that. Then I interviewed with some new ADs who I was introduced to from an AD from Hot in Cleveland. Um, Told me, hey, these people are looking for a second. So I interviewed with them and I got hired. And I went to go do a Nickelodeon show called How to Rock, which was one season. But this was about kids that went to school and they were in a band. So every episode had concert performances with a boatload of background. And 90% of the scripts took place in school with a bunch of background. Like, there's the school hallways and cafeterias and all of it. And so it was quite an adjustment for me to go from, not that I was not supported on this new show, I was, but also I was absolutely out of my depth initially. Like maybe I had like 20, 25, maybe at the most like 30 background over there. Over here, I've got 80. It's just me. I don't have a lot of time to camera block because we're on kid time, and they gave me as much time as they could to camera block, like in the mornings. But um, when almost every scene has background, it is, yeah. So I had to. It took me a minute to find my way. I will say the first AD was really helpful, and really let go of. It's interesting because I took a public speaking class in college, and you're in front of the auditorium, and I was never good in that situation. I wasn't good talking to like I get nervous and my heart would pound, and like I couldn't talk to a large group of people. It was really um but then your job, a big facet of your job is talking to a lot of people. And contextually, it was different. Like I didn't get nervous talking to like here's 80 people in front of me and I have to tell them what they're doing today, whatever. And it's not, it's just different. It's different because you're doing this job. And so I didn't have any of those fears, I guess fears, or anxieties about talking in front of a big group. Um, but um, but yeah, this first AD really helped me kind of get out of my shell a little bit. Like Nickelodeon shows are they depend a lot on reactions, right? There's always something silly going on or something big or there's a noise or something, and everyone needs to react, not just the main actors, but all of the background, the background around them. And so you have to give them that direction. And I watched this first AD once do this, and he just got up on a made safe, like table bench, and was like, okay, everyone, like here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna hear this line, and then we're gonna do this. Okay, let's rehearse it now. We're gonna hear this and then do this. Let's rehearse. And I was like, oh wow, like you can, kind of command the attention. Because in essence, you're kind of their captain for the day, you know. And the wild thing about seconding is that it's I describe it as like manipulating for this illusion of control. Like let's say you got 40 people. They're all 40 individual people. They have a choice to listen to me or to not, or to do what I ask them to or not, or pay attention or not, or to keep their phone put away or not. They have a lot of choices to make when they're coming to work with you as well. And so it is you kind of learn to find your confidence, because when you communicate better with them, they'll do better for you every single time. And that came with time and experience, I think, for me. And everyone has to kind of find it for themselves. But it is, even to this day, like, and I will still go second. If someone called me to second right now, I would say yes, please, and I'm happy to be here. Um, but I always have a little anxiety because there's just so many variables. Different directors have different needs, different wants. This director wants foreground. This director hates foreground. I don't want to see it. So, um, but over time, I was able to meet a lot of directors as well, because sitcom, you see a lot of the same directors rotate through. So I had relationships with many of them, which was helpful. Um, and then they'll just let you know. They'll let you know what they need or what they want, or if something's not working, or the camera guy says, hey, Kerry, that guy's blocking my shot, and you have to go move someone. Um, but it is really a collaborative, you know, I mean, the whole business is a team sport, um, but it very much is that, you know, but it's wild, the job itself, I think.
Yeah, you're right about that, and it's true. Definitely, it's very beneficial when you click with that team because you cannot do it alone, obviously, but you do have these responsibilities, and like you said, you could get pointers from camera people and directors, and I think that's why we're all here together to put this show. So it's always a collaboration with all the other departments. But what was the show that gave you the opportunity to level up to being a second AD?
Yeah. Um, so the first AD that I worked with on this Nickelodeon show, I worked with him on a couple shows after that. And then he gave me an opportunity to work on this TV land show called The X's, which was already up and going, actually. I think they'd done 3 seasons, but their seasons were smaller. Like I think we came in for season 3B, like because their seasons were like 8 or 10 episodes. I think we did 12 for one of them, but less than your 22 or 18. Um, and it was a big compliment to me because this is someone who, I mean, look, he's a bit older than me. Like, look, he worked on Fresh Prince of Bel Air when I was watching it like in middle school. So like, so he knows a lot of people, right? So he could have asked someone who has decades of second AD experience, there's and I think when his usual second people heard that he was going to go do another show, his phone was ringing, right? Because people knew there was an opening, and um, and so I don't fully know why he decided to go with me. But I'm grateful for it. I mean, we could say, yeah, maybe I earned it, or maybe I mean, I must have demonstrated through our time working together something that he thought would be an asset to him in that capacity because the first and second AD relationship is a tight one. It's integral and you really have to get along well because you're really coordinating a lot and facilitating a lot for the show and each other. And so, yeah, so I went to go work on that. And again, wonderful group of people. I have to say, I've been so fortunate. It's like wonderful cruise, great cast, like on it. Yeah. So I went over there and we did 3 seasons of that over there.
Well, that brings me to my next question. We did collaborate on the show Night Court, and you were a second AD on that. Would you be able to take me from day one to day five of what the role is for you specifically?
Sure. Yeah. So day one is our table read day. A big part of my job is communicating with the actors in terms of what time to come in and report and what have you. On Night Court, we didn't rehearse. Well, at least in seasons 2 and 3, and maybe later in season 1, we didn't rehearse on Mondays. So Monday was really our table read, and then we would do fittings if costumes needed to see anyone. We would get the fittings done as well for cast and guest cast if needed. And in terms of my job, so I'm doing the call sheet for the following day, checking in with departments, and also calling central casting, who did our background casting, because Night Court was extremely busy in terms of the background needs. We had a lot of we needed a lot of people every week. We had a courtroom and we had the cafeteria and the hallway around the cafeteria. And so I think we averaged, I don't know, like 65 people a day. And honestly, we probably could have handled more. And we had more for some episodes than others. Um, but I am sending a background breakdown over to central casting to let them know what our needs are for the week. So it's like, we need 2 security guards and a bailiff and a stenographer, and we need a cafeteria worker, and we need a barista, and we need like all the things, and then like some lawyers and some whatever the types may be. Let's say they have Susie Smith, who's described as having big blonde hair and like whatever, she's 6 feet tall. Okay, then I'm, asking central casting if they can please find us some options for Susie Smith or as close as they can, find. And yeah, just kind of getting that ball rolling because sometimes facilitating all of the background needs can take a minute and they need that time as well to and also if anything crazy has come up hair makeup wise, I mean, I know our producer was very good at communicating with them. um, if I thought that they might need an additional person, but I was never booking them, I just wanted to give them a heads up, like if the schedule stays, you might need an additional person if you want to get them on the hook, but I can confirm with you when we get closer, because they always wanted to have good people.
Yeah, I do remember on that first day, it was an opportunity for you to ask all the questions that for example, like talking to the writers as far as like what do they have in mind? What do you need to go out and search for as far as like the type of people that they imagined, and as well as communicating with producers and anybody else necessary, special effects or whatever it is, to make sure that it's coordinated for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting about the production meeting. I guess I was thinking we were doing those on Fridays at the end, but yes, the production meeting as well, where we all
Yeah.
kind of all department heads could kind of get some of those questions answered so that everyone
Yeah,
else's department could
that
focus
that's true. We did do
as well.
production meetings on Friday at some point as well to give us an extra day prep and stuff like that, which was very beneficial. But that leads me to like day two. What is your responsibilities for that?
Yeah, so day two, we come in um, and it's a rehearsal day. So I'm always an early person. I always called it the calm before the storm, even though Tuesdays were not a storm. But I would always kind of go in early, work at my desk, get the call sheet in good shape, um, maybe prep the PR, and just kind of do the immediate stuff that needs to kind of be because I had to get a call sheet in, I think, by 10 a.m. So, and we were rehearsing at 9. So, and once we get into rehearsal and we're sending people here and there, to set and back and forth, and I don't get as much time at my desk, which is fine. So I would come in early, get ahead, and then with the help of our production assistants, we're waiting for cast arrivals and letting them know, okay, who we've seen, to make sure everyone's here. And as we get closer to 9, we're confirming that everyone's here that we need, and if someone isn't, I'm calling them to see if everything's okay or if they're close, or um and then checking in with costumes to find out who they might need to see that day for a fitting, because something might have changed script wise because we have a new script from Monday to Tuesday, or they might need to refit because their first options weren't approved for one reason or another. So finding out what those needs are for the day. Um, and then it's really just between myself and our production assistants, who are fantastic, just kind of getting the actors where they need to be. Like, we're about to move on to the next scene. Okay, let's grab, you know, Wendy for, scene C in the cafeteria, or whatever, whoever's, just kind of so that rehearsal can keep moving smoothly, and there aren't any real delays there. And then sometimes we would break for lunch. It just depended how quickly rehearsal would go. Um, and then we would have a run through, the producers run through, which is just the chance for all of the writers to come down, and we just do, the script once, like a play, like every scene in order, in script order, once, so that they can kind of see what's working, joke wise, movement wise, so that they can make any adjustments they might need for the next script that will come out on Wednesday.
And what does day three look like?
Day three was very much like day two, except we have the studio network run through. So yeah, so more rehearsal with the new script. So working that out, possibly more fittings depending. Also, sometimes there might be some guest cast who might not join us until Wednesday. So um, getting them in as well. And prior to that, we have stand-ins as well. So I'm also responsible for communicating with our stand-ins. But yes, so stand-in might have played a role for Tuesday, but now the actor's here, so sometimes they would want us to get them together to get notes. Sometimes not, depending. But yeah, so we would rehearse in the new version of the script, and then have a run through for studio and network. So it's all the writers as well, and producers. So it's all of our writers plus some other studio and network folks, to watch and I guess review with the same sort of, to see what's working and what's not, or if they have notes, to then download to the writers to implement for what will be the shooting draft for Thursday.
Would you be able to take us through the shoot days from Thursday and Friday, for example, for our finale on Night Court? How was that like?
The finale. Gosh, I've blocked it out. No, um, yeah, on any shoot day, again, I'm in early because also everyone else is in early. Um, some shows do it differently, but we would have, we would start shooting at 9. Um, so it just so sometimes I would have people in hair and makeup. It could be 6:30, not ideally, not often, but so I'm in with whoever the first hair makeup folks are. And probably a little before that, especially if we have new hair makeup people, because they're gonna text me, call me and say, hey, where do I go? Where do I set up? And again, between myself and our production assistants, just kind of making sure hair makeup is arriving. They're the first ones to arrive, and costumes. So costumes is prepping. We're helping make sure hair makeup is squared away, that they have the shooting schedule that they need for the day. Um, and I would do a hair makeup flow as well, so that they basically everyone knows who's coming into their chair and when. I would also sometimes say verbally, like, okay, John's going to be in 10 minutes, or, I wouldn't just leave the chart and run away, sometimes, or like, Melissa has to kiss someone in this first scene. So that's like Barbie, her makeup person would like to know that because she might put something, I don't know if it's like a layer, some kind of, lipstick that stays better, or, a layer of something that stays better, or, um, stuff like that. Um, just little things that they might want to know. And of course, these people are reading the script as well. We had great department heads and whatnot, but sometimes there's just little things that, um, you all like to be on the same page and remind people, and it's all in the means of supporting, because you don't want anyone to get caught out there and be like, oh, they're kissing in the scene. Oh my God. And then we got to wait 5 minutes to reset lip stuff. I'm not saying it takes 5 minutes. I'm sure it's not. I'm exaggerating. Um, but we just want everyone to be as prepared as they can to help everything go as smoothly as it can. Um, and so a big part of my job is just allowing enough time for all of that to happen. Um, yeah, so we would start shooting at 9. So sometimes we would start sending the actors out there at 8:55 if I could, while they're doing their safety meeting. And then the actors are arriving, they're getting, sometimes props has to give them a couple things, sometimes like whatever, or they might run it once, just the lines with our dialogue coach before they actually get into the scene, just to make it extra fresh for them. And then we'd always rehearse once, at least rehearse one. So everyone, including cameras and all sound and all the technical departments as well, get to see and hear, and the actors get a full go before we shoot, and then we're into shooting. Um, yeah, and then it's just depending how the day goes. Like you might have different, and someone, you're just continuing. Either all the actors are ready for the first scene, and they're pretty much ready, and you're okay for a bit, or actors are staggered depending on what the schedule calls for. So it's like, you know, so part of my job is also communicating with hair and makeup. Like, hey, I know you do this person, but they're shooting in the first scene. Can so and so watch them on set because you've got someone else coming in? Um, like John and Wendy, for example, had the same hair and makeup people, and so um, you know, but also we had wonderful, um, like their whole departments were wonderful, and they were very trusting, and the actors were comfortable. So like if they had to be in the room to get the other one ready, like if John's shooting and Wendy's in the room getting ready, you know, um, they would have someone else in their department like look after the actor on set so that everyone's covered, everyone's taken care of. Um, but we're still, getting people ready. So um, it just depends on, um, yeah, the needs, I guess, and how many guest casts we have. I mean, it's like, it's just this, yeah, I don't know. I mean, so yeah, my job is really just to help keep the shooting moving, and not, and so the actors are ready, that the actors that are in the next scene are going to be ready, and the first AD will usually check in and say, hey, Kerry, we're getting close. How are we doing on so and so? Now, it's my goal to be able to say, yep, they're ready, ready. Which, and ready, ready means they are hair, makeup, and wardrobe. That means they're 100%. So, um, but once in a while, stuff happens. Once in a while, stuff happens that you can't control, despite all the planning. Um,
Yeah,
so
for day 5, we did film on front of a live studio audience. Did
yeah.
any of your duties change, or did any things happen differently on day 5?
Not tremendously. We were able to come in later because we were going to be working later. And so um, I mean, just a little bit different in the morning. Like the actors didn't go to hair makeup first. They would come in, and then we would do what we called a camera refresh, which is we'd run all the scenes, rehearse slash run all the scenes for the audience show that night. And they're just comfortable in whatever they came to work in. It's kind of like dress rehearsal without the dress, so to speak. And so we would work that out. And then once that was over, usually around 1 o'clock or so, depending how much time they needed in hair makeup, the actors would either go to hair makeup or have lunch. And I was usually our production assistants kind of really took it on, but like we would have to facilitate like lunch for the actors, like someone is sourcing it from somewhere. So a menu, menus have been circulated earlier so that whenever their break is, they'll have food. It's very important. You have to make sure everyone eats for sure, always. So yeah, so just depending how much time they needed before show to go to hair makeup, that kind of 1 to 3:30ish block was used for that. And then we would do the speed read at we did I think we started doing it at like 3:50 or so, a little before 4 because we did intros at 4:25. So once everyone would go to that like 100%. So all the cast is all hair, makeup ready, wardrobe ready, and then they would go into the speed read, which is with them and the script supervisor usually, and our dialogue coach, and it's just a chance for them to do all their lines one more time before we do our audience show. Um, so we get them all in the room for that. And then once they dump out, I would tell them how much time we have until intros, and then help gather them for intros. And then yeah, and then I'm back there um, in case they can't hear. Some people like me to point, like when they call their name. Sometimes you can't. The audience is loud and wonderful, and so you can't always hear like the names or what name was that, or I've actually stopped the wrong person from going out there, like because they're just in the moment and so. But I'm just there to kind of, if they need me to point, tell them when to go. I'm there for that, and if they don't, but just to let everyone know we're set in the back for intros, and we do intros, and yeah, and then during the show, it's really about um, again keeping things moving, making sure if we're moving on that those actors for that next scene are there. Like we have an audience, like we can't not have the actors there, like for the next scene. Like that's not okay at all. Like once in a super great while, something insane happens, um, but yeah, it's really just facilitating, making sure to stay on top, and keeping track of people, keeping track. I will say, that's a big part of my job and our production assistants and anyone who's in my department's job, because on show night, someone could finish a scene, they're not in the next scene. So they might have gone to Crafty, they might be at Video Village talking to people, maybe they have friends here. Did they have to change their wardrobe from day 1 to day 2? Like I got to make sure that's happening, like because sometimes they forget, sometimes they just forget, or they're just not thinking about it in that moment, or they think they have more time than they might have. Not that costumes is not telling them that as well, but I'm also kind of looking out to make sure, like, did you change? Okay, you have a change now, like, and they're like, oh right, um, because my goodness, and it has happened to me. Um, if you go to shoot that next scene and the actor didn't change. It has happened to me. Um, and all it takes is for that to happen to you once, and you're like, oh my God, never again. So, it's, yeah. So just kind of helping supporting the floor to make sure that things are moving and flowing, and making sure that the actors are where they need to be when they need to be there, that they're changing, that they're doing things. If there's hair makeup stuff that's coming up in a scene, um, you know, and again, they have schedules and they're on it. But sometimes it might be like, oh, hey guys, this is the scene where um, I don't know, the confetti blows all over, whatever it is. Like, that's not really a hair thing, but you know, um, I mean, we generally do the messes on Thursday, but this is the scene where Melissa's going to get Jello in her lap or whatever the case, whatever it is, and just kind of, um, yeah, just helping everyone, I think, stay informed and just helping to keep things running smoothly. Because in my mind, I'm doing my job well if people don't really notice that I'm doing my job.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it's honestly one of those things where if you are having trouble with your position, the whole show is going to have trouble advancing as well because you got to get the pe right people in the right spot at the right time, which is not an easy job to do.
No, I mean, I will say on Night Court, we were very lucky. We had wonderful cast on that show, and I mean, if someone didn't come out of their room, and I can't really remember that happening, but if they hadn't, it would have had to have been for a significant, legitimate reason. We really had pros, pros,
Yeah.
uh, which is not every job. So you learn to appreciate those things a little more, I think, when you have them.
Yeah,
So,
that's Night Court.
yeah. And I will say, our second did a wonderful job on that show. A very hard, it's a very hard job on Night Court, the
Mhm.
background stuff, and it was constant. And because he was so good at his job, I didn't have to really dip into that. Like, I've been on some situations where sometimes the second would have to also jump in and maybe help the second, right? Or just to support or whatever the case may be. I didn't have to do that because he was so strong and good at his job, which allowed me to concentrate on the other stuff with my job. So, um, it's a team. It's team all the time because it's a lot. It's a lot, but I also love it still. Over 20 years later. So, um, I think that's a gift because not everyone likes their job in this business or elsewhere. So,
Yeah, shout out to Chris and everything that he did for us over there too.
yep.
What would you say is the best way for people that are interested in the AD department to network and meet the right people to find that next gig?
Yeah. To get the next gig or to like get in? Like,
I would say both because I mean
mhm,
you do need that experience to get into the DGA and also
yeah.
just to be active on a set.
Yeah. Um, for if like just getting into the DGA, I mean, I would say like obviously you need to start with experience. I mean, can you get in if you know the right person? Yeah, maybe. Um, and that does happen here and there, but generally experience is going to be the most valuable tool. Um, and in terms of getting experience, which I know can sound daunting as well, especially since we're in a little lull. Although it's coming, and I swear it's busier every day here. But like I started with an internship. This town has a boatload of those. I know it's hard. LA is expensive. You might not be able to afford to take an internship. Some pay, some don't. I feel like most don't. Um, and I always tell people take the interview. Like if someone gave you an interview for anything, that's even remotely related, even if you don't want to do it, take the interview, meet the person. Like, because we all know people. Like I've been asked if I know prop people. Like what? Like that's not my department, and that of course I do also. Um, but everyone knows people, and I still think that you know, hard workers, people that have a great strong work ethic, um, sometimes isn't as common as you might think. Although I do think there's an awful lot of that in this business. We have a lot of very hard workers in this business. Um, so I always tell people, like, and there's mixers and stuff. Like there's things in town. There's Instagram. I mean, there's Instagram groups, there's Facebook groups. Um, I mean, I came out with a job waiting. So that's like, so I feel like I'm like, what do I tell people? There used to be a lot of USC film jobs like on Craigslist and stuff. I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't been on Craigslist in a long time, but um, but yes, I mean, we've got film schools here that are doing student films that need crew, and so I think it's good to just and tell people what you want to do because I know I've had help to get where I am. And I'm always excited when I can help someone else. Like honestly, I it's one of the best things. Like if I can help someone who's awesome get on the path to where they want to go, it's so rewarding to me. Um, you know, but yeah, and in terms of getting into the DGA, um the training program is there. I would apply for that. And also, I mean, PAing, right? PAing is how you're going to meet people and show your hustle. And um, ultimately, I do think this business is one that rewards hard work. Um, I do. And if you're willing to put it in, I think more often than not, you'll be rewarded. It's a lot. We work with a lot of people who have given a lot of their lives themselves to this industry, and I don't really hear people complaining about it. I always thought of it as paying dues, but you blink and 20 years goes by and you're like, what? So, so, but no, I think working hard, talking to people, um, being a good person. A great AD that I know actually said, if you gave me the choice between hiring someone who is great at the job but okay to be around, or the person that's awesome to be around and is fine at the job, I'm going to take the person who's awesome to be around every day of the week. Now, as I told him, I think you can find both in the same person. I think that does exist, but yeah, just you're putting in some hours. And like I'm not saying life can't happen or you can't talk about stuff at, negative stuff at work, but kind of just working hard and being pleasant and respectful um goes a long way. It's I mean, I guess that should be a given maybe for any workplace, but yeah, just being helpful, courteous, manners, and really working hard because people will see that you're working hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would you say was somebody that was a big influence in you or that you admire?
Wow. In this business?
Yeah, somebody that was very beneficial to you in your journey.
Sure. Um, I mean, there's been different people along the way, honestly. Like on According to Jim, Dennis Caps was our first AD, who's one of the nicest people you could possibly fathom. He also did Hot in Cleveland. Um, Nicest and also most capable. Um, like in seeing those two go hand in hand, I feel like is inspirational. Like if I was gonna first AD, I want to do it like that. I want I want like fully capable and also the kindness, right? And just the and I could say that Natalie Van Doren is very similar in that way. Crazy smart and capable and also so kind and nice. And because the first AD is really responsible for a lot of the feel of the set and the vibe and how that is going to feel for everyone coming to work that day. And so if you can be part of creating like a warm, friendly space for people to come to work, um, while the world is chaotic and whatever else is going on in people's lives, not that people's lives aren't happy, but like with all the other stuff outside, if you can come to work and feel like loved, supported, um, yeah, I mean, I don't think you can ask for more than that. And I wish more places were like that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Natalie was one of the first people to ask to join the DESTINO program and to talk to me about what it's like for her and on her sets. And I can also jump off of what you were saying. And she definitely kept the set very pleasant and somewhere you wanted to be at work. And so, yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
Lastly, if you had any advice for your younger self, what would that be?
Ooh, for my younger self. This is funny. You can edit, right? No. Um, for my younger self, I wish I could tell my young self that it'll be okay. Like it'll be okay. Like it'll work out. Like, that like all the work isn't for nothing, you know, because when you're in the midst of doing it all, and I learned a lot. I learned a tremendous amount. I worked awfully hard, but I learned a tremendous amount. I met so many awesome people over the years. I mean, there's people that I haven't seen in over 20 years, and they're still on my Facebook and they're working out in the world, like either in Boston or New York. Um, and if I shoot them a message like, "Hey, saw your show, it's really awesome," like, you know, they're like, "Thanks so much," like we're still in touch, and I love that about this business. It's interesting because I have actually, because this job and this industry does kind of demand so much of you and your time and your attention. Um, Sometimes the personal side can suffer. A lot of people make it work, and I think that's tremendous and awesome. Um, but it's interesting because I have actually um, a couple people that were like starting out, you know, kind of asked them like what their priorities are in life, um, because um, because it's going to take a minute here to pay your dues and to get anywhere, and so and time moves on, and so it's like, if your priority is to get married and have children and be there for those children, maybe this department is not for you. And that sounds harsh. I will say multi-camera. I will say I don't know many shows that are small anymore. When I think about when I started second ADing, I mean, I would leave at 5. It was all dialed in. It hasn't been that way for a while now. Hard
Yeah.
work does pay off, and um, yeah, I think that's a yeah.
Well, thank you, Kerry. I really appreciate this conversation, and we were able to hear all about you and your work and how your journey ended up here now.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.